بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم فإن تولوا فقل حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. وقال رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وآله وسلم والمدينة خير لهم لو كانوا يعلمون أو كما قال صدقت يا رسول الله الكريم. All praise due to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, cherisher, nourisher and sustainer of all the worlds. And choicest blessings and salutations on Nabiyuna, Habibuna, Tabibuna, Nurna Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala al-nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. Inshallah, I'm going to try that once more because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a beautiful place of worship on Friday Jumu'ah, and I think it's best that we all collectively, with heart and fervor, send salutations to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala al-nabi يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. أيها الأحبة في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you had to only walk up 3 flights of stairs. And it reminds me of the verses فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. After every difficulty shall come a bit of ease. So I see the Jama'ah members are looking much more happier. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this gift in the heart of the city of Cape Town, in the heart of the financial district. He's afforded us the opportunity to establish this place of worship. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also established here with the teaching of young minds and hearts. Also, it feels like we made hijrah from the 7th floor to the 3rd floor. So it may take us back 1441 years ago. But we'd just like to share with you this great message of Islam. When the Prophet ﷺ announced this message for the first time, about 1454 years ago, it was not just an announcement of a message of a religion, but it was an announcement of a message of hope. It was hope that was born 1454 years ago. And that in essence, if you want to summarize the message of the Prophet ﷺ, his message can be summarized as a message of hope. In the hot sandy deserts of Arabia, where people used to fight each other, and about 600 more years, approximately 600 years or just less than that has passed since the coming of Isa alayhi salam. It seemed that there was the quagmire of darkness and dhulumat reached a pinnacle. People were fighting with each other and killing each other over the most trivial of reasons. Fathers were burying their daughters alive. The entire foundation and the house that housed the foundations of Tawheed, of La ilaha illallah, this place of worship and the symbol of Tawheed had more than 360 idols in it. People were worshipping anything they could find. The quality of ethics and morals, trustworthiness, lying, speaking the truth as opposed to that lying seemed to be the order of the day. People were betraying trusts of each other. And they were doing all types of evil. If that was not enough, someone had the audacity to take an army of elephants and try to destroy the very house that symbolized Tawheed. When Abraha came to Mecca with his elephants, that's how you couldn't get more low in terms of the ebb of existence. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and that fateful day of Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, was the announcement and the birth of hope. For every darkness, there shall indeed be light. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His infinite wisdom, sent His best of creation, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, with this message of hope, this message of life, this message of light, the message of Islam. But how did the people in those days who lived in those environments, how did they see Islam compared to how we see it today? The way we see Islam today seems to be very different to the way they saw it. What attracted the likes of Bilal radiallahu anhu? What attracted the likes of Ammar and Yasir and Khabbab and Salim? What attracted them to give everything they had, including their lives, for this message of hope? Is it the way we look at Islam, or did they look at Islam differently to the way we do? And I'd like to just take you back to an important event that took place, which has a very close connection with all of us, because we find ourselves as Africans in the continent of Africa. The first place to give refuge to the Muslim community in the difficult circumstances that they found themselves, being tortured, being killed, being abused, being indignified. The first land to give refuge to Muslims, to host Muslims, to accept the call of Islam of Muslims, to accept an official delegation from Mecca, was the land of Africa. And to understand how significant this event is and how they saw Islam, we go back to the hadith of Sayyidina Jaffar bin Abi Taalib radiallahu anhu, the brother of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, Amir al-Mu'mineen. And his conversation and his presentation to the Malik of Africa, the King of Africa, of Abyssinia at that time, is narrated in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, amongst others. And this hadith, if you look at it very closely, it provides a very sweet and in-depth perspective on how the first Muslims saw Islam. And he presented Islam to the King of Africa when he was given the opportunity. Because you know the historical scenario behind what happened. Before they could even establish themselves in Abyssinia and have a meeting with the king, the Quraysh had already sent their delegations to stop the King of Africa from hosting the Muslims and putting a block on this refuge that they sought in Africa. So he found himself in front of the king, and he had to present his case why they should be allowed to stay in Abyssinia. And usually, when we are asked to present Islam to anyone, we get so caught up in the technical argumentation of the technical issues of Islam. But let's look at how, when he was called upon by the Najashi at that time to present Islam, what did he say? He said, "Kunna qawma ahlul jahiliyyah." We were people steeped in ignorance. Kunna qawma ahlul jahiliyyah. We were people steeped in ignorance. Na'bud al-asnam. We used to worship the creation as opposed to the creator. Wa na'kulu al-mayt. We also used to eat our dead. وَنَأْتِي الْفَوَاحِشِ. And we used to do all types of evil if we thought we could get away with it. So he's now presenting what the condition was in Makkah. وَنَقْطَعُ الْأَرْحَامِ. And we don't mind cutting ties with our family. وَنُسِيءُ الْجِوَارِ. And we were not the best of neighbours. يَأْكُلُ الْقَوِيِّ مِنَ الضَّعِيفِ. And we live by the rule that the might makes right. So the stronger amongst us used to suppress the weaker amongst us. فَكُنَّا عَلَى ذَلِكَ. And this was our condition. This is how we lived. حَتَّى بَعَثَ اللَّهُ رَسُولًا مِنَّا. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us a messenger who is from amongst us. And we know him. And what did he tell us as opposed to what we were doing? He said to us, first and foremost, فَدَعَانَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. First thing he did is he invited us to worship the Creator and not the creation. First thing he did was he invited us to worship Allah. وَأَمَرَنَا بِالصِّدْقِ وَالْحَدِيثِ. And he commanded us to speak the truth. Look, the way they saw Islam. Tawheed and speaking the truth. The first two things he mentioned, فَدَعَانَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. He speaks about Tawheed. وَأَمَرَنَا بِصِدْقِ الْحَدِيثِ. And he speaks about speaking the truth. It seemed that these two concepts has to go together. This is how they understood Islam. وَأَدَاءِ الْأَمَانَةِ. And he goes on further to elaborate what the Prophet ﷺ message of hope was in a time of hopelessness. And he taught us never to betray the trusts. وَصِلَةِ الرَّحِمِ. And always to be good to our family. Not only be good to those that are good to you, because then what good are you? But to be good to your family. وَحُسْنَ الْجِوَارِ. And he taught us to be good neighbours, to be positive contributors to our neighbourhood. وَالْكَفِّ عَنِ الْمَحَارِمِ وَالدِّمَاءِ. And he asked us to stop bloodshed and all types of wrongdoing. وَنَهَانَا عَنِ الْفَوَاحِشِ وَقَوْلِ الزُّورِ. And he asked us to stop doing all types of evil and all types of obscenities. And he commanded us to stop lying. Look, this is the message of Islam. Speak the truth and stop lying. And وَنَهَانَا وَأَكْلِ مَالِ الْيَتِيمِ. And he prohibited us from eating the wealth of the orphans, for oppressing those that are downtrodden. وَقَدْفِ الْمُحْسَنَةِ. And honoring other people. And وَأَمَرَنَا أَن نَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ وَحْدَهُ. And he commanded us to worship Allah alone and not associate partners with him. And then Sayyidina Jaffar says, وَأَمَرَنَا بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ وَالصِّيَامِ. And then only he comes to the point and says that he commanded us also to establish prayer, to give charity, and to fast. This is how they saw Islam. The Christian, this is how the Sahaba saw Islam. And this is what attracted them to Islam in the first place. And the very difficult circumstances. Tawheed, speaking the truth, not betraying the trust, stop lying, don't oppress others, be good neighbours, do not oppress the orphans, only worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, focus on the Creator and not the creation, and establish salah, and give charity, and fast. This is how they saw Islam. This is what attracted them to Islam. And that's why these words of Sayyidina Jaffar needs to be written and etched in gold. Because he explained in a very simple way what Islam is. And sometimes today, when we invite people to Islam, how often do we speak about these concepts? We usually speak about our group and what those things that makes us special as opposed to others. And that's why people, the moment they hear the message and they get exposed to the divisions amongst ourselves into various groupings, they run far away from accepting the message. But if we explain to them the way Sayyidina Jaffar explained how Islam is and how it cannot be separated from speaking the truth, any person will be attracted to Islam. It was not a reduction of Islam to just rituals and looks. He did not speak to the Malik to speak about how we must dress and how we must look and how the outer appearance should be. He spoke about aspects that relate to good character. And this is what attracted many of the Sahaba. And many of them were amongst the downtrodden in the community in Mecca at that time. Because you must understand, the people that were ruling Mecca at that time were none other than the Quraysh. And the Quraysh were doing all types of obscenities at that time. And sometimes you wonder why they behaved like that. And many of the scholars speak about the actual word Quraysh coming from the word tadarrush or Jumuah, which means to gather together or to gather together for the purposes of doing business. But some say that Quraysh actually comes from the word qirsh, which means a shark. And it seems that they ruled Makkah with the same type of tyranny and the same type of fear they instilled amongst the people of Makkah, like a shark as a predator does in the waters. Sometimes it's not about what the shark actually does, but it's just the fear of what the shark can do that terrorizes the hearts and minds of people. So the Prophet ﷺ, against this backdrop, he came and announced the message of Islam, the message of truth, the message of hope, the message of ethics. And he did this fearlessly. And he did it consistently. And he did it diligently to try and take the people of Makkah and his own people out of the quagmire of dhulm and dhulumat, of darkness and oppressive behavior, ila nur, to the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it was not an easy journey, it was a difficult journey. For 13 years in Makkah, not even 100 people accepted the message. And many of them had to migrate to Abyssinia. So you can imagine the type of challenges they had. And it seems that the Quraysh during the period of Makkah, they really acted like sharks. They oppressed the people, they brought about fear in the hearts of the people. But you see, Islam came with a very special message. It was not a message of indoctrination. It was a message of empowerment. You see, that is the difference. Those who oppress and those who subjugate, they live off indoctrination. But those who want to liberate and seeks better for others than even themselves, they do not indoctrinate, they empower. And that was the message of the Prophet ﷺ. He came with the message of empowerment. The Quraysh, on the other hand, they also gave an ultimatum for those who accepted Islam. And the ultimatum was very simple. You either denounce this religion of truth and all these values that you stand for, or we will kill you. It was a simple ultimatum. And that's exactly what they did, because they ridiculed and mocked the Prophet ﷺ, except for a few who were amongst the nobles of Mecca, like Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and Sayyidina Uthman and a few others. The rest were either slaves or women who were not even considered to be human beings. So they mocked the Prophet ﷺ because by saying that your message only appeals to this type of people. And the Prophet ﷺ stood steadfast. And he continued his program of empowerment. But we have to look and see the kind of things they did to the likes of Ammar and Yasir. Yasir was his father, and Sumayya was his mother. The women folk, they did all types of indignification to them. And they abused them in ways that was unimaginable. To the men folk, amongst other things, they burned them. If you ask Sayyidina Bilal, when they took that hot rock in the sandy desert of Arabia and they placed it on his chest in the heat of the midday, that hot rock is like a molten iron being placed upon a person. So you can imagine the type of suffering. You would hear in the winds of sandy Arabia the crushing of bones, the breaking of teeth, and the gushing of blood. This is how the first Muslims came into Islam. But you see, it would have been very easy for them to give it up. Because they were told, if you give this up, we will save you. But you see, it's very difficult when a person sees light for them to go back to darkness. It's very difficult when a person is educated to go back to ignorance. It's very difficult when a person sees humility and they know what it means to be humble and to go back to arrogance. Once you see light, you would never want to go back to darkness. And that's what Salim did. That's what Khabbab did. That's what Sayyidina Bilal did. In the midst of them being tortured, what do you think Sayyidina Bilal said? He said, Ahadun ahadun, fardun samad, la walid wa la walad, qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. So despite such difficulties and such tragic circumstances, they found comfort and contentment in the Tawheed and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the beauty. And the reason why we are sharing this message, which is very symbolic, that the difficulties that they faced with in Mecca, there will always come a period when you will go into Madina. From Mecca you have to go to Madina. There's always hope. Like the message of Islam provided hope for the people around. That's what Madina brings into their lives. The hope of a better life for all. And sometimes those things are used as slogans, but if you look at the Sahaba's lives in the 13 years of Mecca, Madina brought to them empowerment. It brought to them a better life. It brought to them the establishment of a state of goodness, a state of truth, a state of amana, a state of trust, a state of sidq, of speaking the truth, a state of a fraternity in which they could worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without the dilution of the message of Tawheed. And alhamdulillah, this is what we are commemorating and celebrating today, especially in our new premises that we have here. That may have come out of the Meccan period, lots of sweat, blood and tears, when we first established the Madina Institute in 2014. Went through challenges and difficulties, nowhere near the challenges that the Sahaba went through, but nonetheless, challenges and difficulties. And now, alhamdulillah, we find ourselves in this beautiful premises. But Jama'at al-Muslimin, it's not about the decor of how beautiful it is. It's about the movement towards empowerment. If we can empower a child, if we can expose them to the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not create this dichotomy that exists in our society, that you can either become a doctor, or you can either become a sheikh, or you can either become a student of knowledge, or you can do both. There's no harm. It's only to your benefit. There's no need to have a dichotomy. Jama'at al-Muslimin, there's lots of space in front. If the brothers can come forward, inshallah, then we can have some space for the brothers in the back. But that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the Medina phase. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, وَالْمَدِينَةُ خَيْرٌ لَهُمْ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. And Medina is good for you, if only they knew. And that's why, if you look at the historical aspect, and you look at where we have come from, and you look at the history of the sacrifices that were made from the Sahaba, from the companions, from the household of the Prophet ﷺ, and those وَتَابِعِهِمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ إِلَى يَوْمِ الدِّينِ, and those who follow in those footsteps. After every difficulty there shall be ease. But we need to bring about a program of education and liberation and empowerment. And that's why this project that has been formed here. It is a project that requires your assistance. It requires you to participate in this project. What we are doing is providing a platform for young children so that they can be exposed to the 5 sciences of the deen. That empowerment, that light. The whole objective is not to establish an institution where they are taught how to worship technically in a perfect form. That's the easy part. That they do in madrasa. The objective that we have today and the need of the time is to make them better human beings in the first place. Because that's what Islam comes with. And that which we mentioned about Sayyidina Jaffar, all those aspects he spoke about in front of the king. And that softened the heart of the king. Because what was the outcome after he put his presentation of what Islam is? The king allowed them to stay in Abyssinia untouched and unharmed. Because any idea or any thought or any way of life that brings about a better human being, that will provide hope, growth and opportunity for everyone in that community. And that's what the Muslims brought about through their actions and their behavior when they established the first Islamic society in Abyssinia and Africa. And it's not a coincidence that it happened in Africa. It is a reminder for us as Africans, part of the African continent, that we have a responsibility. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Africa as the first continent outside Makkah to establish a Muslim fraternity, it's our responsibility to extend that and to grow that opportunity. And that's why we want to create good human beings. So when they study the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they study ulum al-Quran, the way they approach their studies, the understanding and interpretation of the Quran, when they study that, we want them to understand it on a platform of love and muhabbah, where they understand the Quran in such a way that it softens their heart and they are given those interpretations that are the correct interpretations that make them into better human beings. When they study Aqidah and the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they study mantiq and logic, and when they study all of these aspects relating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is Huwal Awwal, He is eternal with no beginning, Huwal Akhir, He is eternal with no ending, Laysa kamithlihi shay, there is nothing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is not subject to change, and Allahu Samad does not only mean Allah eternal, but it means Allah is not in need of anything for anything, yet everything is in need of Him for everything. That's why Sayyidina Bilal did not waver. When they burnt him in the hot sandy deserts of Arabia, he did not stop all, he said, Ahad, Ahad. And that's why it's important for us to empower our children. When they study the hadeeth of the Prophet ﷺ, when they do ulum al-hadeeth, when they do tariq, the history, when they do the seerah, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, they understand it in such a way that they are inspired to follow out of love in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, and not out of fear. When they study the fiqh, who to worship we do in Imaniyat, in Aqidah, how to worship in fiqh wal usul, this is what we teach them, so that technically the understanding and the approach to ritual ibadah is technically valid, and all under a platform of Arabic. Because how do we expect people to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us if we don't understand the language in which He revealed it to us? The reason I'm mentioning this today, because it's a very symbolic journey. Alhamdulillah, we have come into our new campus and you can see its state-of-the-art facilities. This is nothing but a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it requires us to establish a fraternity and a community. And you will see in the early days when we were on the 7th floor, they never used to go around with a towel to ask contributions from each of you. But we said, now we must do it. Because we're establishing a community of Madina in Lower Long Street. On Upper Long Street is the largest concentration of clubs. In Lower Long Street is La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. This is how it works. In Makkah, at the time when the Prophet ﷺ announced his message, they had amongst the largest concentration of these type of red light districts in and around Makkah. Red light districts they had, with all of the vices you can think of. And in the heart of that came this message of being a good human being, not oppressing others, speaking the truth, not betraying your trust,
This is the message of Islam. And inshallah, if we can give our young children this opportunity and this gap year of substance, because in the old days what used to happen, they used to say, if the boy is clever or the girl is clever, we are going to send them to become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer. But if he's not, he goes to Mia's farm, or he goes to the Darul Uloom. Right? Remember, that's how it was in the old days for those who went through the system. And if he is naughty, we make him Hafiz. If he's clever, we make him a doctor. It was never meant to be that. The whole idea of life is inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And sometimes you misinterpret it that it means the day you're born and the day you die. But it's not. It's every day. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un is every day. Because every day when you get up in the morning, what do you read? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. Every morning we recite that. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That Allah, we praise you for bringing us back to life after we died. Yesterday we died. When we went to sleep, it's as if we have died. And the next morning when we get up, it's new opportunities, it's a rebirth. And that's why we have to seize these opportunities. And we have to maximize the potential of our young people, inshallah. So that's why the idea now is for us to develop a fraternity, a community. We empower our children. We send them when they finish matric, take a gap year of substance. Learn the fundamentals of the deen, the 5 sciences of the deen. Don't do a foundation that is for residential development. Do piling for a skyscraper. So we give them a fair opportunity. Why would you want to send a child out in today's world that the madrasa system, we have prioritized the secular studies, so the time they reach grade 10, we stop their madrasa because they've got too much of homework. And then they have absolutely no conceptual understanding of the usul of the deen. And then we want to send them out into the open world. And there's so many atheists out there that are presenting their worldview in a way that makes people godless. And then we want to know what happened when your child comes home and says, I'm not a practicing Muslim, I just have a Muslim name, but I don't believe in this religion. And then we want to cry, it's too late. Give them a fair opportunity. And before, in the old days, remember, they say, but I don't have 4 years and 6 years to send my child to the Darul Uloom or to Azhar or to any of that. Because it will take them, and they need to start earning money so they can get married and we can get money. That's the objective of life. Right? Nothing more different than what chickens do. Eat, go to the bathroom, and have kids. But the objective of life is not that. We have to prepare ourselves for the imtihan, the biggest examination that we are going to be faced in the qabr. And the test of life, because Allah makes it clear, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. You will be tested with everything, from fear, from loss of life, loss of wealth, all types of calamities you will be tested. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. But give glad tidings for those who do not lose hope in their patience in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't train our children to be amongst the sabirin. They don't understand the concept of sabr. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ is too far-fetched concept for them to understand. So the moment they hit with any test, they lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they become godless, and they become atheists and agnostic. We don't train them with what it means to have tawakkul. What is the importance of hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil? If you don't give them the tools, how do we expect our children to navigate themselves in life? But there's no excuse. Because we have a 1-year intensive program. We took a 4-year program and we took all the skeletal aspects of it and we made it into a 1-year intensive program. Come and study the usul of your deen, the fundamentals of your deen, and then inshallah go out there, become whatever you want to, but at least your foundation is one of a skyscraper. We do what we call piling here in Madina Institute. We establish a solid foundation so they can, to the rest of their life, build a skyscraper of ulum in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's 1 year, it's a gap year of substance. And you know our children, you either give them a gap year of substance at a good institute, or they go traveling around the world and they do whatever they want to, or some people take a gap year on Jamison steps. First year of varsity is gone down the drain. Rather, be proactive, make an informed choice. Give our children, if it's not your child, your neighbour's child. If it's not your son or daughter, your nephew or your niece. Give them the gift of this exposure to studying the deen, and inshallah, we will try our best on our side as Madina to make them into better human beings. Our vision, and the reason why we're mentioning this, because this is a start of a new journey for us in the Madina phase of this institute. Our vision at Madina Institute, we strive to bring hope, growth and opportunity to all human beings. As a place of deep theological reflection, we understand that people can be both seekers of knowledge and believers of faith, each solidifying the other. Madina Institute is a place where your spiritual journey will flourish and help you delve deeper into your faith to serve humanity selflessly. Our mission at Madina, we believe that every human being is uniquely created and called for a compelling purpose. We are committed to helping students discover, develop and deploy their calling. We at Madina believe that every human being is created with the potential to achieve. We are committed to helping students excel in every area of pursuit, especially in the area of unique gifting. We strive to pursue righteousness as presented in the sacred texts, the Quran and the authentic prophetic sunnah. In other words, we will make every effort to balance grace and truth and ultimately point students to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-loving creator of all, and then to the person and message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We seek to create a healthy educational environment that is nurturing, empowering, loving and positive, where students can grow, develop and maximize their potential. Together we will strive to energize and equip each student to succeed in whatever part Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-loving creator, facilitates. Our desire is to see our students transform themselves, their communities and the world, and become purposeful, productive and spiritual Muslim adults. Today we ask you to hold our hand and join us in this journey. It is a collective responsibility. It cannot be done individually. But I'm sure if we all put our hearts, minds and souls together, we will inshallah be able to achieve this objective. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of His blessings inshallah. And please try and facilitate so that the spaces are maximized inshallah, so everyone can be part of this beautiful first Jumu'ah. It feels like we are in Quba just before we go to Madina. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can we stand up inshallah as we say so in Masjid al-Quds? Stand up and come forward, right, so that we can make our sufuf. We have given everyone the application and the brochures of the Madina Institute. Please pass it on to any child you know that has completed the matric inshallah, and that would be amongst the best gifts you can give to young people. Shukran.